Cars that are smaller and more efficient can also be more desirable. Alfa Romeo hopes proof can come in the form of their MiTo, one of the new breed of small yet desirable sporty premium compact models. Aimed at the Mini but offering greater practicality, value and high street wow factor, this Italian alternative is attracting a loyal following. It took a long time for us to see a product that properly competed with BMW's Mini. Now that car proved that European drivers were prepared to pay quite a premium for something compact and three-door, provided that it was sporty, stylish and had the right kind of brand cachet. Step forward, Alfa Romeo's MiTo. Now 30 years ago, enthusiasts on real-world budgets dreamed of an Italian car that packed all of Alfa's spirit and heritage into a practical 4-metre length. And they realised it with the iconic Alfa Sud. 3 decades on, this MiTo should satisfy their kids in exactly the same way. I should start by explaining the MiTo name, combining as it does the first 2 letters of Milan, where Alfa Romeo was conceived, and Turin, or in Italian Torino, where the cars are currently made. It's also the Italian for myth or legend, a nod to the rosy future the brand has in mind for itself, which will see this model leading an ambitious charge to double its annual output to over 300,000 cars a year. Now, though it's smaller than the larger Alfa models that we're used to, it's still pretty profitable, thanks to the fact that the money to develop its underpinnings and its engines was spent a few years ago already on its close cousin, Fiat's Grande Punto. Now, fortunately for potential MiTo buyers, the 2 cars have a very different feel, thanks to MiTo-specific steering, suspension, seating and brakes. The engines have been tuned differently too, and of course there are those unique looks. So far, so good. So, to what an Alfa should be about, the driving experience. Well, first impressions are good. You sit lower in this car than you would in the Fiat Grande Punto, with which it shares the basic underpinnings and the oily bits. But shouldn't an Alfa have its own unique engine? Well, sadly that idea makes no sense at this price point, but the Milanese engineers have done a good job with the tweaking the engines that are available to them to give them their own unique, high-revving, sweet-sounding Alfa character. Now, if you don't fancy the idea of 1.3 or 1.6 litre diesel power, then you'll find that most mainstream petrol MiTos are based around a 1.4 litre engine. It gives you either 95 brake horsepower in entry-level form, or if you go for one of the TB variants, you've got turbocharged engines offering up either 120 or 155 brake horsepower. Now, if that's not fast enough, you could talk to your dealership about the 1750cc 230 brake horsepower engine developed for the top-of-the-range hot hatch GTA model. And this version and the 1.4 TB 155 are really the only 2 MiTos that feel proper Alfa-like really quick, with the 1.4 TB Fit 155 getting to 60 from rest in 8 seconds flat, on the way to a top speed of 134 miles an hour. To help get the most from the performance that's on offer, Alfa have turned to a whole range of sophisticated electronics to further set their car apart. Now, the first I'm not quite sure about. The DST, or Dynamic Steering Control System, provides a sort of counter steering effect to combat oversteer and maintain an even course through fast corners. Now, no doubt it does, but the whole electric setup feels rather over-assisted and gives a slightly vague feel that I wasn't really expecting in a sporty car of this type. Now, the use across the range of Alfa's clever Q2 differential is much more effective. This clever system diverts torque to the wheel that can best use it, so uselessly spinning wheels aren't a part of hard cornering. The brakes are very effective too, and you won't need to overuse them into bends because body roll is well controlled, a byproduct of ride quality that's rather firmer than some might want. The MiTo's pièce de résistance, however, is the DNA setup that's laudably standard on all models to give the driver direct control of the transmission and throttle response, power steering assistance, suspension firmness and stability control. Now, the initials stand for dynamic, normal and all-weather. And unlike many systems of this kind, you don't need to be a professional driver to notice the difference that it really makes, especially if you're at the wheel of the one of the 1.4 TB variants that have a special overboost function on dynamic mode that makes the car really wake up and take an interest in the road ahead. Most cars have some kind of styling brand identity, but with this Alfa, this whole shape has a unique look that could belong to no other marque. From the serpent-eating baby badge on the shield-shaped front grille to the rounded jewel-like LED taillights. Now, the shape is derived from Alfa's 450 brake horsepower 8C Competizione supercar, and it's one you'll either love or hate. Now, unfortunately, this is a three-door only shape, but at least there's decent space back here for a couple of adults on shorter journeys, even if it is a little awkward for them to get in to start with. There's certainly more room back here than the pathetic berths you get in a Mini. Now, the luggage bay, no split folding rear seat here, but there's 270 litres of it, although you do have a slightly high loading lip and a rather narrowish aperture here. Still, at least you can extend it for reasonable versatility. List prices for the three-door only range suggest that you'll pay between £12,000 and £15,000 for mainstream MiTo models. These being the 95, 120 and 155 brake horsepower petrol 1.4s, or the two JT-DM diesels, the 90 brake horsepower 1.3 and the 120 brake horsepower 1.6. Now, those figures tell you that Alfa is pitching directly at BMW's Mini. An entry-level MiTo will save you about 500 quid on a comparable Mini 1, while the 1.4 TB 120 brake horsepower MiTo that's pitched directly at the Mini Cooper can save you up to 1,500 quid if you're prepared to forego a few of the sporty bits. If you're not into Minis or MiTos, then there are plenty of pretend GTI alternatives, but they don't have quite the same class. All MiTos come with healthy safety provision, including 7 airbags and anti-whiplash head restraints, while apart from the DNA handling control system, a whole range of electronic driver aids have been built into the car. Now, these include anti-lock brakes with electronic brake force distribution to maximise their effectiveness, while the VDC vehicle dynamic control is a stability system that, along with ASR skid control and CBC cornering brake control, will help you out in slippery conditions or if you enter a corner too fast. Now, air conditioning is standard, as is a decent quality MP3 compatible CD stereo, electric windows and mirrors, plus you get alloy wheels on most models. Now, downsizers with a bit of extra cash will be happy to raid the options list for some lovely extra cost items, like these gorgeous leather seats. Now, the MiTo's engines are an efficient bunch, with the star performer from a fuel consumption point of view being, not surprisingly, the 1.3 litre JT-DM diesel, which manages nearly 63 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle while putting out 119 grams per kilometre of CO2. Even the feisty 1.4 TB155 model manages 43.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 153 grams per kilometre of CO2. Not too bad considering its performance potential. Residual value should be better than those of mainstream rivals, and insurance costs, well, assuming you're not looking for anything faster than the 1.4 TB 120, they should range between 3 and 6. As ideal for those who prioritise style and performance in a compact, practical package, as it is for dyed-in-the-wool Alfisti enthusiasts, this MiTo appears to have all the ingredients it needs to succeed. Now, the market for trendy small cars has really taken off in recent years, and this baby Alfa looks perfectly placed to capitalise. It's taken the Milanese marque 30 years to produce a car like this. Many will feel it's been worth the wait.